ඔෆිස් එකේදී විතරක් නෙවෙයි මම දැන් ගෙදරදීත් IDD calls ගන්න SLT phone එකේ.
ඔබේ නිවසේ SLT දුරකථනය දැන් IDD පහසුකම සහිතයි.
Making headlines on First at 9. In with the new. The Sinhala and Tamil New Year dawned, sparking celebrations across the country. A year on from a disaster. Lives lost in the Meethotumula garbage heap collapse remembered. Pile-up on expressway. A 9-vehicle pile-up gives rise to traffic congestion along the southern expressway. Descending on Syria. The US, UK and France bomb Syrian targets. Russia calls for an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council. New heights. Sri Lanka's 4x100 men's relay team sets a new record down under. Before we start off tonight's bulletin, we at Derana would like to wish our viewers who are tuned here at home and those who are joining us across the world a prosperous Sinhala and Tamil New Year. Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Katrina Chang. Now, millions across the country had their eyes glued to the clock as the Sinhala and Tamil New Year dawned at 8:13 a.m. today, erupting celebrations. People from across the island were seen partaking in religious observances and various traditional practices. Both Sinhala and Tamil communities boiled milk in expectations of prosperity, and the two communities celebrated the festival together. There were also instances of visiting foreigners taking the opportunity to absorb the Sinhala and Tamil New Year.
The much-awaited New Year dawned at 8:13 this morning, sparking a multitude of celebrations across the island. Religious observances were engaged in and blessings were invoked on the citizens of the country at various religious sites. Language barrier was once viewed by many as a contributing factor to the 30-year conflict. However, Tamil communities in Kilinochchi and the security forces were seen celebrating the joy and excitement of the new year, proving that language is not a barrier anymore. Meanwhile, the former LTTE cadres who carried arms during the conflict were seen with offerings in hand, celebrating the dawn of the Sinhala and Tamil New Year. Former LTTE cadres who are being rehabilitated at the Rehabilitation Centre in Vaunia were seen engaging in rituals including the boiling of milk in expectation of prosperity and good fortune. In the meantime, foreigners visiting the island during the festive season also joined in the New Year celebrations. The next auspicious time falls at 10:16 a.m. on Monday to anoint oil. This process should be observed while clad in white and facing north, with wood apple leaves placed on the head and imbul leaves at the feet.
The Chief Prelate of Askiriya Chapter, Most Venerable Varakaguda Sri Nanaratana Thera, is hopeful that the Sinhala and Tamil New Year will bring communities together and enhance reconciliation. The Venerable Thera expressed his hope in his New Year message. In the meantime, Anunayaka of the Malwatha Chapter, Most Venerable Niyanguda Sri Vijayathesiri Thera, in his message to mark the arrival of the New Year, called on people to have the country's betterment at the forefront of their minds.
I wish the new year to be a prosperous one for all Sri Lankans. There are Sinhalese, Tamils, Muslims and various other nationalities in Sri Lanka. Sinhalese, Tamils and Muslims lived in this country in harmony for thousands of years, and there was no disharmony. Since the Sinhala New Year and the Tamil New Year are celebrated together, this could be used to enhance unity among the two communities.
Anunayaka of the Malwatha Chapter, Most Venerable Niyangoda Sri Vijayathesiri Thera, also made a statement to mark the new year.
Sinhala and Tamil New Year consist of a number of customs that are historically important. When we think about the present day, it goes without saying that people in this country should act responsibly. Especially friendliness and peace among all the nationalities should be consolidated. A share of that responsibility is to think about the country as a whole and work for the betterment of it as well as a society.
President Maithripala Sirisena says that the Sinhala and Tamil New Year harvests progressive values and ethics to society. In his New Year message, the head of state added that by celebrating the New Year, the country can collect a bountiful harvest of peace and prosperity.
Keeping with tradition, President Maithripala Sirisena performed New Year rituals with his family today at his official residence in Colombo. Opposition leader R. Sambandhan was also present during the occasion. The president planted a bale sapling, also known as belly, at his official residence at the auspicious time. Earlier, releasing his New Year message, President Maithripala Sirisena said that the New Year binds with the traditional customs which blooms interrelations and family relationships and showers the human thoughts with refreshing fragrances which flows to the future with our deep understanding and respect we have for the traditions of the New Year. The head of state added that by deeply studying this glorious cultural event, which harvests progressive values and ethics to the whole society, and celebrating it, people can surely collect a beautiful harvest of peace and prosperity. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and Professor Maitri Wickremesinghe engaged in religious observances at the Bamarakale Sri Mahaviharaya in Nuwara today in view of the Sinhala and Tamil New Year.
As we celebrate the New Year, I wish that issues and challenges we face presently be resolved and our country continue on the path to progress. As a government, we are committed to sort out all challenges currently faced. I wish all of you a Happy New Year.
Meanwhile, opposition leader R. Sambandhan, releasing a message in view of the Sinhala and Tamil New Year, said that lasting peace and harmony is inevitable for a country to make progress in development and other areas of concern. He added that his prayer is that in this New Year, Sri Lanka will be able to overcome all obstacles and challenges in framing a new constitution which paves the way to achieve a lasting solution to the national question and gives the rights to the people to live with dignity, self-respect and self-esteem. Meanwhile, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and his family celebrated the New Year at their Carlton residence in Tangol today. In his New Year message, the former president said that he hopes the New Year will bring new hope and a new beginning to the Sinhala and Tamil people and enable everyone to realize their dreams and aspirations.
Ministers and members of parliament from various parties came together to celebrate the Sinhala and Tamil New Year today. They shared their time together while joining the New Year program, Derana Aurudu, organised by TV Derana. The event was held in Colombo this evening.
The New Year program, Derana Aurudu, organised by TV Derana, was worked off this evening in Colombo. Politicians were able to partake in New Year festivities and showcase their otherwise often unseen talents in song and dance. In the meantime, the Derana Badulapura Surya Mangalya will take place at 6 AM tomorrow at the Badula Football Stadium. The festival will feature New Year games, prizes and surprises. Participants will also get the opportunity to meet celebrities and enjoy a live musical show tomorrow evening. The event will be telecast live on our sister channel TV Derana from 6 AM onwards.
Venerable Paul Pitimukulane Panya Siritera says that the Sinhala and Tamil New Year is a festival where reconciliation could be its most effective. This was a topic discussed by a panel of experts during a special New Year program hosted by Ada Derana.
Two communities celebrating a New Year together. How do we take this New Year celebration, these rituals, these customs forward as one nation for reconciliation, for togetherness?
Buddha wanted us to lead the kind of harmonious and kind of unitary kind of life. This is a kind of festival we all can come together sociologically, anthropologically and social wise. This has a kind of very good function to lead a kind of peaceful, harmonious, good life.
This is the most unusual kind of New Year. So we have an island culture, and as a result, island cultures are always very colorful, diverse and colorful. So is the New Year. The New Year comes in the middle of a month. Usually, a New Year must come at the beginning of a month. But the New Year comes not in the middle, first of but halfway through. Unusual. Normally, a year begins where the other ends. And this New Year is based on the movement of the sun. So it's called astrological calendar. In this country, there are only two sets of people who believe in astrology: the Sinhala Buddhists and the Tamil Hindus.
Actually, according to Buddhism, we don't have kind of astrological calculation. Buddha says, for the persons who have taken refuge in the triple gem, all the times are auspicious. That is his explanation.
Yeah.
In addition,
But there's no logic in this. It's
Yes.
belief.
It's a belief.
It's a belief.
It's a beautiful
belief.
customary belief.
That's right.
Yes.
you asked about the difference between Buddhist and Sinhala, Tamil auspicious
Times.
But in Tamil auspicious time, there are two almanacs. One is Thirkanida, is mathematically calculated auspicious and other times. Then another one is precedent. Year by year it is practiced. So according to, that is Raghunatha year almanac, according to his almanac, the time of dawning a new year is different from this Thirkanida in our. Within Hindu tradition, two different auspicious time and dawning times.
Astrology is not a science, it's a pseudoscience. There are different ways of calculating time. So therefore, you will have one set of time, we will have another set of time, but both are from that point of auspicious.
On the 14th of April last year, Sri Lanka was struck by tragedy as the Meethotamulla garbage dump collapsed, bringing death to many. A year on from the disaster, we at First at 9 took a look back at the tragedy and the impact it made in the society. Garbage collected in the Colombo municipality was being dumped in an area of Meethotamulla in Kolonnava, in line with the court order issued in 2009. Although the court ordered garbage be dumped within 2 acres, the dump had spread to an area of 18 acres, and the height of the garbage mountain was closer to 20 meters. Around 800 tons of garbage was dumped to Meethotamulla on a daily basis. Residents of Meethotamulla organized several protests against the garbage issue, but a solution was not forthcoming. In such a backdrop, a section of the massive garbage dump collapsed on the 14th of April last year, with 32 residents confirmed dead, affecting 980 persons of 228 families and destroying 79 houses. Following the tragedy, a presidential committee was appointed to inquire into the damage caused to life and property due to the collapse of the Meethotamulla garbage dump, and its report was handed over to President Maithripala Sirisena on the 6th of February this year. The report included several observances and recommendations, along with the fact that the Colombo Municipal Council failed to follow a proper method for waste disposal from the inception, as well as their failure to properly implement proposals forwarded in this regard. Committee report revealed that there was an unusual increase in sums paid for external organizations for the waste disposal process of Kolonnava and Meethotamulla areas from 2015 to 2016. Meanwhile, prompted by the collapse of the garbage dump, the government decided to implement a ban on high-density polythene from the 1st of September last year. But punitive action against the production, sale and usage of such was to be taken from 1st of January of this year. In such a backdrop, to commemorate the man-made tragedy, a ceremony was held recently in the memory of those who lost their lives with the participation of the relatives of the deceased. Addressing media, relatives of the dead said that those who were affected by the tragedy are yet to be given enough compensation.
දැන් වසරක් ගත වෙන්න ආසන්න වෙලත් මේ මිනිස්සුන්ගේ ඇත්ත ප්‍රශ්න වලට තාමත් විසඳුම් හම්බෙලා නැහැ. ඒ අයගේ ඉඩම් වලට වන්දි හම්බෙලා නැහැ.
නියමිත විදියට Most didn't get compensation for lost lands, and had they been compensated, they could have built a place to live. Most of them are in a sorry state as they didn't get compensation.
අනගාටුදායක තත්වයක
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back to the news. Now, there are media reports in circulation claiming that a special committee has been appointed by the Sri Lanka Freedom Party to determine the party's future conduct with the national government. It is alleged that the relevant committee will be headed by Minister Dr. Sarath Amunugama.
There were parliamentary debates in recent times which claim that the agreement between the national government and the Sri Lanka Freedom Party has come to an end. The political crisis which ensued following the recent local authorities election brought the matter under the microscope, and the decisions taken during the vote of no confidence against the Prime Minister suggested that there were two divergent views within the SLFP. From the 41 SLFP MPs and ministers representing the national government, 16 voted against the Prime Minister, following which they stepped down from their posts in the national government. Parliamentarian S.B. Disanayake, who is also among those 16 members, stated yesterday that he intends to sit with the opposition in the next parliamentary session. A senior member of the UPFA, however, stated to Derana that a special committee was appointed to decide on an agreement and to determine the party's future conduct with the national government. The decisions of the committee, allegedly chaired by Minister Dr. Sarath Amunugama, will be presented to President Maitripala Sirisena when he returns to the country after his tour of Britain.
Parliamentarian of the United People's Freedom Alliance, S.M. Chandrasena, believes that all MPs from the Sri Lanka Freedom Party joining the opposition is the right thing to do. He made his thoughts clear at an event held in Anuradhapura today.
SLFP ministers and state ministers who supported the no-confidence motion against the Prime Minister cast their vote according to their conscience. They are prepared to sit in the opposition. Their action was timely and they did this for the public. If the rest of the 20 parliamentarians sit in the opposition, it would only be fair for the public. This government will fall apart and those in the government will not be able to lift their heads again.
A severe traffic congestion prevailed along the Southern Expressway heading towards Mathura this evening, owing to an accident near the 48-kilometre post. Derana correspondent said that the accident involved 9 vehicles.
Traffic along the Southern Expressway was severely affected this evening due to an accident between Valipanna and Kurundugas Hatakma. A vehicle had joined the expressway from the Valipanna entrance, which led to another vehicle plying along the road to apply brakes, resulting in a pile-up. The accident rendered traffic towards Mathura to a snail's pace. The operations and maintenance unit of the expressway later removed the vehicles involved in the accident. The Derana correspondent said that 3 persons were admitted to hospital with minor injuries.
Former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. W.A. Vijayawardena, warns that the country's debt has blown beyond the level of redemption and the country is now caught in a debt trap. The former Central Bank Governor expanded on the country's present economic state, including foreign direct investments, in an exclusive interview with First at 9.
The present economic status is very dismal. By the time the present government took over the country, economy was not in a good shape. And their job was to reverse the trend. They were just concentrating only on political reforms. And of course, Vision 2025 had been framed by the government, keeping in mind the election cycle of the country rather than the economic cycle. Sri Lanka would become a developed country within a 7-year period, which is totally impossible given the current economic potential. We have problems on every aspects of the economy. Debt issue of the country has now actually ballooned beyond even a redemption level. As a result, we are in a very critical situation. So we have to now borrow money, which means we have to repay the debt by borrowing, which would accumulate further debt for the country, and as a result, we are in a way trapped in a debt trap today.
Former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. W.A. Vijayawardena, also questioned the foreign investments Sri Lanka attracted and highlighted them as dubious projects.
Investments have not taken place in the country. Even the very minimal foreign direct investments that has come to the country had been in the form of some dubious projects like tyre manufacturing facility in Horana, vehicle assembling facility in Kuliyapitiya, which would not add additional value to Sri Lanka. The tyre manufacturing facility that they are going to set up in Sri Lanka will have a serious issue of getting the raw material, rubber from Sri Lanka, because rubber is not available in Sri Lanka. Therefore, unless those tyres are exported, then the tyre factory will become a problem for the balance of payments of the country.
Director General of the World Trade Organization, Roberto Azevedo, says that the global economy is showing strong signs of recovery, with Asian economies being the main contributors. Speaking at a media briefing in Geneva yesterday, he added that global trading goods by volume grew by 4.7% last year, which was the fastest pace of growth in 6 years.
According to the World Trade Organization, China was the world's largest exporter and second largest importer in 2017, and the combined trade volume of China and the United States accounted for more than 20% of the world's total last year.
All regions contributed to the trade recovery in 2017. The main contributors were the Asian economies, which together contributed 60% of the volume increase in imports and 51% of the increase in exports.
The US, UK and France have bombed multiple government targets in Syria in an early morning operation targeting alleged chemical weapon sites. The strikes were in response to a suspected chemical attack on the Syrian town of Douma last week. Russia's ambassador to the US responded to the attack, saying the attack on its ally will not be left without consequences. Russia also called for an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council to discuss Western airstrikes on Syria.
US President Donald Trump ordered precision strikes targeting Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's chemical weapons capabilities yesterday as explosions were heard in the Syrian capital of Damascus. Trump said a combined operation with France and Britain was underway and that they were prepared to sustain the response until Syria stopped its use of chemical weapons. The operation by the three allies came after a poison gas attack in Syria that killed at least 60 people last week. UK Prime Minister Theresa May said that she did not come to the decision of joining the airstrikes lightly.
This is the first time as Prime Minister that I have had to take the decision to commit our armed forces in combat, and it is not a decision I have taken lightly.
Meanwhile, Australia's Minister of Defence Marise Payne said today that Australia fully supports the US-led airstrikes. However, she said Australia was not involved. Syrian state TV said that Syrian air defence shot down 13 missiles fired on the country today. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said a total of 3 scientific research centres had been hit in the attacks, but they had been evacuated by the Syrian government earlier this week. Meanwhile, pro-Assad supporters rallied in the streets today demanding a halt to the US-led airstrikes. A small group of demonstrators also gathered outside the White House showing their opposition to the airstrikes in Syria. Hours after the US, Britain and France launched strikes against Syria, the country's government published a video showing President Bashar al-Assad arriving at work. The images issued by the Syrian presidency portray a business-as-normal image and came as Syrian state media said only one of the 3 targets in the early morning airstrikes caused material damage. Meanwhile, China's permanent representative to the United States, Ma Zhaozhou, called yesterday, stressed that unilateral military action by circumventing the Security Council is inconsistent with the principles and purposes of the UN Charter and runs counter to the norms of international law and those governing international relations. He went on to say that Syria's sovereignty, independence, unity and territorial integrity should be respected.
One Palestinian was killed and scores of others were wounded during clashes with Israeli troops yesterday as thousands of Palestinians gathered in protests along the Gaza-Israel border. Israeli troops have shot dead 31 Gaza Palestinians and wounded hundreds since the protests began on the 30th of March.
Thousands of Palestinians went to the Gaza-Israel border area for the third Friday in a row as the Great March of Return, evoking a long-time call for refugees to regain ancestral homes in what is now Israel. Yesterday, Israeli troops shot and wounded 30 Palestinians during the protest, in which demonstrators hurled stones and burned tires near the frontier fence. Since the protest began on the 30th of March, Israeli troops have shot dead 30 Gaza Palestinians and wounded hundreds, drawing international criticism of the lethal tactics used against them. The planned 6-week protest, expected to culminate on the 15th of May, has revived a long-standing demand for the right of return of Palestinian refugees to towns and villages from which their families fled when the State of Israel was created 70 years ago.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Sri Lanka's 4x100 men's relay team set a new Sri Lankan record in the final of the event at the Commonwealth Games in the Gold Coast of Australia today. Today is the 10th day of the 21st edition of the Games.
Sri Lanka came 6th in the men's 4x100 meter relay final, worked off this morning. They recorded a time of 39.08 seconds, setting a new Sri Lanka record.
Women's high jump and the men's javelin, just confirming that result of the...
In the badminton court, Sachin Dias and Bhuvaneka Gunathilaka took on a Malaysian pair for the bronze medal in men's doubles. Although the Sri Lankan duo lost the match, it goes down in history as the highest achievement by the country at Commonwealth Games history. In the meantime, Sri Lanka's 7-a-side rugby team also took the field today. They, however, couldn't record a single win in the first round as they succumbed to Fiji, Wales and Uganda.
Shenla Fernando is at the Other Derana Weather Centre with your forecast first evening edition.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Good evening, wishing you a prosperous new year and welcome to Forecast First. Your temperatures for tomorrow will vary between 21 and 31 degrees Celsius with the lowest expected in the Kandy district. When looking at the map, a low pressure zone will form from the central hills and will spread throughout the country. No much sun reported as many areas of the island including Jaffna, Mana, Anuradhapura, Kandy, Colombo, Galle and Matara as well as Hambantota will experience showers and thunder showers. In the meantime, the Department of Meteorology stated that heavy falls of about 100 millimeters will continue to be experienced at some places, particularly in the western, northwestern, Sabaragamuwa, southern, central and Uva provinces. Misty conditions can also be expected at some places in the Sabaragamuwa and central provinces during the early hours of the day. That's it from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your city by city forecast.
That's all from First at 9 for tonight. But before we go, we'd like to bring you some visuals from Paris, the capital and the most populous city of France. Beyond landmarks such as the famous Eiffel Tower and Notre Dame Cathedral, the city is known for its cafe culture and designer boutiques. Hope you enjoy. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.